The way that they're going about student loan forgiveness is not very good. Now, the idea of forgiving people's loans is an interesting one to begin with because you wanted to do something, you took out a loan, and you ended up using it for that purpose. So to forgive someone of a loan, it, in my eyes, is going to take something really egregious for you to then get that loan back. So why is there so much energy behind forgiving these loans? Well, I went to school, I took out loans, and what's one of the reasons why people think that this is a good idea? Well, they think that schools cost too much. It's not that good of a deal anymore. You're not able to pay that money back because the money that you end up getting through your profession isn't equaling out after you've gone through the schooling process. So if that's the case, if that's the reason why, if we think it's a bad deal to take out the loans that pay for this education that doesn't give us what we want in return, then who's at fault? I would say that would be the universities. They're not giving a fair deal for the price that they're asking. But here's what's interesting about student loan forgiveness. Now, I know that it just got shut down by the court system, and don't think that that's going to stop it, though, that they're going to continue to push for this. But what's interesting to me is that the government is going to pay those loans back. So this is what a lot of people have a problem with, right? They say, well, the government is paying for the loans. And people always say, oh, well, the government's paying for it. Well, what is the government paying for it? What does that actually mean? The government is us. We fund the government through our tax dollars. Now, you might say, well, it's not going to increase my taxes because they're just going to reappropriate some of those funds into a different pocket. So they're going to use it for the student loan forgiveness instead of, for what? Maybe military? I doubt that, right? I think that it's going to eventually end up raising taxes. But even if you were going to make the argument that it wasn't, they're going to, move things around. So maybe your schools don't get as much money for them. Maybe the hospital systems don't get as much money for them. So that is not a good solution to the problem if we're just going to use taxpayer dollars or government money. Nothing is free. Nothing just comes out of nowhere. Just like the vaccines. People are like, well, the vaccines were free. Nothing is free. Your tax dollars paid for that. If the government paid for it, your tax dollars, a portion of that went to it. And if they didn't want to raise taxes, they had to reappropriate, all right? Or I don't even know if that's the correct word, but they had to put that money in a different bucket versus what they were going to use at the time. So they had to put it in the vaccine bucket versus like I said, maybe the education bucket. So we're talking about education, we're talking about student loans, and these loans, the 10,000, 20,000, they're looking to forgive some of these loans. Now, if they made the universities pay for it instead of the government, instead of us as citizens paying taxes, that would make a lot more sense to me. Because what did we begin with? Why are we demanding that we get these loans forgiven? Because it was a raw deal. It wasn't a good deal for us because the universities cost too much. So if the universities pay it back, that I would agree with. If you look at some of these endowments from some of these universities, they got the money to. You look at some of the salaries of some of these executives and some of these football coaches and some of these things. Now, maybe the football coaches, they actually bring in money because there's TV deals and things like that. But give me a break. It's a school. So the way that we're going about it is only going to lead to more people pissed off because, hey, what if I took a loan out for my kid's surgery? Let's just say, right? Why don't I get that forgiven? Is that not more important than someone getting an education in liberal arts, right? Or underwater basket weaving, that's the cliche. So how are we as citizens looking at the hierarchy of what loans should be forgiven and what shouldn't? So I think that's one of the angry parts about it is, hey, I worked my butt off, or I fell into a certain situation and I'm not going to get my loans forgiven just because I didn't go to college. It's still money, it's still loans, it's still the same thing. So Now you've got the government looking to pay these things back. But again, what is the government? The government is just us. It's just the tax dollars in a different, put through a different lens. Hey, we're going to put it, instead of we're going to put it through to the roads in your community, we're going to give it to these student loans in as forgiveness. So if they made the universities pay that money back somehow, some way, maybe with their own loan to somewhere else, then that would make more sense, because again, the culprit of the entire problem that we're dealing with would be paying for the problem. Whereas now you took the problem and you're just adding more of the weight onto the American people and taking it off of these people who got these degrees. And so who ends up winning? The people who got the degrees and the universities. But all the other people that weren't able to, let's just say, even get the loan to begin with, or weren't qualified enough to make it to school, they were working, paying taxes, and now they're going to have that burden. Now, of course, people with university degrees are going to be paying back some of that loan with their tax dollars, obviously, because not everybody that has a degree isn't working, right? These people are still going to work and paying taxes. So yes, they're going to be paying back some of that with their own money, but the bigger picture is who's getting forgiven and who's doing the paying. And if you're going to forgive only a certain class of people, and you're not going to make the culprit of the problem pay it back, then you're just going to create more problems. So what I see with this situation is maybe it gets pushed through, maybe it doesn't, but the sentiment behind it is, hey, these universities are still worth it. They're still going to get their money. They're still going to have a system where they get paid for this bad deal. Again, the deal is not good. You're paying money for this university and you're not able to even pay back the loans within a reasonable amount of time because you're not able to get the job that you want, or the jobs aren't paying. So there's multiple problems with it. But again, if you said, hey, the universities, you're going to have to take that bill, you're going to have to pay people back, all right? That would make more sense. There's no way that you'd get those people to agree with that. But when you step in and as the government, you say, we're going to pay it back, people like to jump to say, hey, the government's paying for it. It's like it's free. It's not. There's nothing in life that is free. I hate to break it to you. Everything costs something. So if the government is paying for it, that means the tax dollars are paying for it. That means some form is either going to be reappropriated, reapportioned. Again, I don't know what the correct word is, but that money's got to come from somewhere within the tax structure, within the government budget, or the taxes have to go up. So I don't think it's a good situation. I don't think that they're going about it the right way. I think if it does get pushed through the way that they're doing it, it's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. Because again, so many people have gone out there, and not only have people gotten loans for other reasons that might be even much more important than just an education, they might have just worked their butt off with 2, 3, 4 jobs at the same time, eating ramen noodles, living off of so little just to do the things that they needed to do. And those people aren't going to be respected and even looked at. We're going to pay back these loans to in my estimation, a corrupt system, the university system. I mean, I saw when I was going to school, I saw the price of my tuition double within the 4 years that I went there. The tuition doubled in price. It went up 100% from the day that I started to the day that I graduated. So I was paying twice as much my last year. Did my education get twice as good? No. Did the facilities get twice as good? They were making renovations on the facilities, but get this. My entire time that I was there, I was walking through construction. So I never got to see any of that extra tuition that I was spending, let's just say it was spent on the renovations, I never got to experience any of that because it wasn't finished before the time I graduated. So that was just one little tiny example of how they can just raise the price. I mean, what am I going to do? Stop going to university 2 years in? I mean, I know a lot of people that actually have had that happen where they've gone to university and they can't keep paying it. They don't want to take out the loan because they know, right, that they're in a certain situation, or the loans are going to be too much for them to deal with after the fact. So they just said, screw it. I'm going to finish halfway through my degree and go do something else. So again, I don't see the university system, unless if you're doing one of the major things in life, or in professions that require it, like a doctor or a lawyer, or there's certain industries that if you don't get the education, you're never going to become that. You're not going to be able to step into that profession. I think for a lot of other people, it's not a very good deal, and you're seeing that with this energy for student loan forgiveness. But bringing me back to the reason for this video, I just don't think that they're going about it the correct way. I think that it's going to piss people off, and on top of that, it's probably going to raise taxes, or it's going to, again, I can't find the right word, reappropriate, reproportion, purpose, I have no idea, but that way of taking money from one bucket of the tax structure in the government budget to putting it into this. So I think it's going about the wrong way. I hope it doesn't end up getting passed through, but I feel like there's so much energy behind it, and so many people are looking at it just at the way of, hey, the government's paying for it, taking the bill, thank you very much, I'll take it. I think that's bad. I think that people need to think about where that money's actually coming from and what's the bigger picture long term. Even if those people are happy, who becomes unhappy because of that situation, and what does what stems from that? What other government relief is going to end up coming about because of that? Because people get angry and say, hey, you gave them money, what about us? I say, hey, we live in a country that is all about the American dream. Work your butt off and you're going to be able to have that American dream. It might be dying a little bit as it is now, but we still have to work hard. And if going to university doesn't match up with what you need in regard to life, hey, it's not a good deal. Then we need to think about why we're emphasizing people going to university. Maybe as a culture, we need to start making priorities in different areas. Hey, maybe going to trades, or maybe you should go into this, or maybe you don't even need that much education. Maybe our standards for education are a little outdated, and you don't necessarily need to have the 4-year degree. You need to have maybe more experience, or you need to have more of X, Y, or Z that's going to lead you into that. So those are my thoughts on it. I think we're going about it the wrong way. I think it's going to piss people off, and I think it's going to not be a good situation. So we'll see what ends up happening. It's paused for now, but that's no guarantee for the future. Until next time.